I don't know why, but I just can't bring myself to cry. The words my dad spoke to me moments after the funeral and burial of his mother. There was longing in his words, a longing for permission to feel deeply. I knew even as a kid, my dad didn't have a great relationship with his emotions, if you could call an apathetic chasm a relationship. That aversion to emotion remained for most of his life. He was loving but not expressive, consistent but not vulnerable. And I'm not sure what widened the gap in his life. Something that put shame on him for feeling. Perhaps being the youngest of 6, growing up on a farm with a father who lost his legs in an accident had hardened my dad's ability to feel. Survival was more important. Nobody is at fault or to blame. I have no doubt he and his whole family did what they could with what they had, but the chasm remained. At least until it was swallowed up by an even greater obstacle. Cancer. We live in a shrinking world. They speculate that there are only 6 degrees of separation from any other person in the world. A friend of 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 a friend could be anyone in the entire world. The unfortunate truth is that for most people, there's only 1 degree of separation between you and someone you know and love suffering from cancer. My family's story of cancer may not be unique, but I hope to provide a perspective that might be. A perspective which, like for our family, might just save yours too. What most consider an enemy became an ironic friend, the friend you love to hate and hate to love. And cancer is ironic. Through the uncontrollable multiplication of unwanted cells, your body consumes itself. Cancer is hungry, looking to devour even things that can't be directly consumed in a physical sense. Memories, potential, joy, relationships. This hunger is never satiated. Its reach even transcends the body. And when left unchecked, it will swallow and consume everything. But within my dad's cancer itself were the seeds of its own downfall. The cancer consumed my dad's ability to distance himself from his emotions. He began to feel again. He began to express his deepest feelings to some in our family for the first time. He became the father that everyone longs for. I inherited some of my dad's relationship with emotion. Almost nothing in life has been sentimental to me. Until cancer. This is the happy part of the story. The part where if you squint your eyes, you can see something beautiful in spite of the looming presence of, And I've seen the transformation happen before my own eyes. The transformation happened first in my father and spread to the rest of our family. Instead of turning inward, he faced us. He faced us in a way he had never done before. One-on-one dinners, encouraging texts, and even hugs. These years were the closest we had ever been as a family, not wanting to waste a moment together. Not only did my dad open up, but seeing him embrace his emotional side somehow gave me and my siblings permission to embrace our own. So one of the turning points with this whole journey came one day when I was mowing the lawn, listening to a podcast where they were talking about people who, when they have a loved one in the hospital, they would visit them day after day for months. And I just remember thinking to myself how much I respected them, and then asked myself the question, would I myself be able to do that? And I was a little disappointed. I don't know if my answer was yes. But the more I got thinking about it, the thought came to me, why do I have to wait for my dad to be on his deathbed for me to make time for him? And so I just committed myself every Friday morning when I have my day off, I'm going to go over there, talk with my dad, hang out, have some breakfast. During the days where he has energy, on the days where he's able to talk and able to walk and able to give me his wisdom and his encouragement. And these have been the best days of my relationship I've had with my dad. Some families unify because of cancer. Others fracture. But why? When you face down the end of your life or the end of someone else's life, you begin to recognize what is important and what isn't. When faced with cancer, you need to ask some questions. How are my relationships? Who will be with me in the end? Who have I hurt in my life and can they forgive me? Who has hurt me and can I forgive them? Reconciliation, forgiveness. Everything in our life boils down to relationships. Relationships are messy. If we could die both alone and happy, then cancer wouldn't be that big of an issue.
We are all faced with the reality of death. We will all pass away. And in a morbid, calloused sense, death is not that big of a deal. Objectively speaking, it shouldn't evoke much emotion because we know it's coming. So why does it grip us so strongly? Well, because death represents the end of a relationship. It is the reality that your relationship with them exists in memory alone. There are no new memories to be made together. Cancer causes this realization to snap something awake inside of you. For my family, we were all snapped into our ability to relate, our ability to feel, to love, to express. We woke up to a beautiful reality. The sobering truth is that for many families, cancer causes them to wake up to something less beautiful. The reconciliation process seems hopeless. The separation was too great. The pain was too much. The relationship was fractured beyond our ability to repair it. And without minimizing those things, forgiveness is still a choice. It isn't a choice you make in a moment. It isn't a choice you make when you feel like it. It is an excruciating choice made over and over and over again. There's an old saying that refusing to forgive someone is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Maybe it's a welcomed thought that no new memories will be made with that person. Maybe you would gladly down the poison that would end the relationship, even to your own detriment. I've been there. And I'll admit, forgiveness is unfair. Forgiveness feels like dying to yourself so that someone else can be unburdened by their actions. But forgiveness is possible. Forgiveness is essential. I've danced around the topic until this point because my aim is to provide a perspective that can help anyone. Perspective is helpful, but an answer, that is what we are all looking for. For some, the answer my family has found may cause you to cringe or recoil or even get mad, and that's okay. It's an answer each of us continues to wrestle with, but we would be completely lost without it. The answer that we have to this suffering is found in one name and one name alone: Jesus. Jesus is God in the flesh, a man who suffered the most heinous act ever conceived in human history. Whether you want to call it evil, the devil, entropy, or sin, there is something out there that pushes us toward death and suffering. By convincing created humans to kill their creator, the forces of evil seemed to win its war with God. But within the plan to kill Jesus was the seed of its own downfall. Jesus allowed sin to consume him on the cross, and evil exhausted itself. Yet while still hanging on the cross, Jesus declared, "Father, forgive them." And the turning point in human history came 3 days later, when Jesus rose from the dead, victorious over his enemy, which seeks not only the death of God, but the death of you and me. The compassion of Jesus is so remarkable, not only because he is God, but because he became the lowliest of all men. There is not a pain or torture or betrayal that he is unfamiliar with. He stooped to the lowest of all human experiences so that he could be present in your suffering. God's love for you is remarkable, but his suffering with you makes it tangible. We wrestle not with the version of Jesus that holds out a compassionate hand to the leper or heals the blind, but we wrestle with the Jesus that hangs, bloody, tortured, and dead on the cross and bids us to join him. Cancer is brutal. Following Jesus, even more so. Dietrich Bonhoeffer famously wrote, "When Christ calls a man, he bids him come and die." The brutal irony of cancer is that it multiplies, spreads, and consumes, and this growth is what leads to death. The brutal irony of the cross is that it kills the very parts of you that you assume provide your salvation, your self-preservation, your self-gratification, your individualism, your accomplishments, your crown, and your throne. The paradox of the cross is that in dying to ourselves, we discover the cure to every relational ailment we could experience. The cross initiates a trade. Your life for his. Your righteousness for his. Comfort yourself in him who holds you fastened to the cross. He will free you when he thinks it is the right time. Happy are those who suffer with him. Accustom yourself to suffer in this manner. Seek strength from him to endure the pain for as long as he thinks necessary. And this is why I'm proud of my dad. Because as the cancer consumed him, as he suffered, he used it as the catalyst for renewal. We are told to be like Christ, to imitate him, to live like him, to follow in his footsteps. I cannot imagine a more perfect example of living like Christ than someone taking the cancer that is consuming them and using it as a platform for the good news of the gospel. My dad asked me to keep the gushy hero stuff to a minimum. He said, I don't feel like a hero. I'm just myself, and God decided to use me. So, Dad, I have to admit, when we see you, we don't see Dad. When I reflect on this journey, we are indeed the fortunate ones because cancer's hunger to consume was kept to just one person's body. In my dad's body, the cancer spread into his bones, his brain, his face. The cancer continued to consume and consume, but it was contained and unable to consume us. It begs a question from those of us who don't have cancer. Am I willing to let cancer consume me too? I pray that the answer to that question is obvious. Cancer, you intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. Thank you, cancer. I hate you.